So hello everybody, welcome back. Today we have Dottoressa Ariana Rottospersi with us, who specializes in Medico di Base as well as a master's in nutrition. Today we're going to be talking about a few different subjects. I've made a list. We're going to be talking about if you're traveling or visiting Italy and you need medical care. We're going to be talking about what does it look like when you go into the hospital as a green code. We're going to be talking about what does the life of a GP in Italy look like and how many patients do they normally have. And we're also going to get into some practical information of is there any advice for picking a doctor once you have your residency in Italy. And we are going to be talking about what do you do if you don't get along with your doctor and what typical insurance looks like. So let's jump right into it.
Ready?
All right, so our first question here is when you are visiting Italy and you have an emergency, what are the different cares?
If you are like in life-threatening emergency, you should call 112.
Right, but what my experience is of like what I've run into most of the time with people that are relocating is they're not at the state of like a severe emergency, but they're at the place of like, this is really uncomfortable. I don't know where to go. It's not quite yet a subject that would take me to the emergency room, but they need some sort of immediate care.
Well, if you have a private insurance, you can call the insurance and they will show you where to go. In particular, if you are in the city center, there are a few GPs that are okay in accepting patients from outside, and you can just pay the amount due to the GP, or the insurance will pay for you, so you don't have to do anything. If it's happening during the night, there's a service called Guarda Medica. So in order to have access to Guarda Medica, you have to call 116 117.
Okay, and with the Guarda Medica, do you need to have a tessera sanitaria?
Yeah, you always have to bring your tessera sanitaria with you.
So let's say you're somebody who's relocating to Italy and you don't yet have your tessera sanitaria, but let's say you threw your back out, you're in a lot of pain, what should you do?
Well, in that case, I would recommend to go to the emergency room. Because if you go to the emergency room, they can give you, depending on the severity of the disease, they can give you different codes. So, for example, if it's not that urgent, you can have a green code or a light green code.
Okay.
That means that you have to wait few hours.
A few hours,
probably.
yeah.
Sometimes you have to wait a lot. It depends where you're going. If you're going in a bigger hospital, of course, you have more specialties that can see you and more services, but you have to wait more. But then they can give you the whole checkup. Yeah.
Okay.
So I would recommend to go there. But if you can't move, then you have to call the 112.
And then let's say, for example, you're traveling in Italy. You have insurance, you've got an eye infection, but the insurance doesn't have a doctor around Bergamo. What could you do then? So you either have to ask a friend to ask their Medico di Base.
Yes. Another possibility could be you just go to one GP in the area where you go and you ask for a private visit to that GP. And normally they have a kind of like a price code that is the same for the whole region, and you can go to that GP if they are fine with that. They are not forced to do that, but normally, if you're a sick person, they can see you.
You can help out.
Yeah.
There is this place that I've seen and I've driven past and I've had some chats with people about. It's called Humanitas.
Sì, Humanitas Care, you mean?
Yeah. How does that work? Because it's a really big structure in Bergamo. Can you just walk in and ask for a GP there?
But you mean the Humanitas, this one in Via Camozzi?
Yeah.
They don't have GPs there, no.
No, so that's
just specialists.
That's just specialist visits, and then you go online to Humanitas and you pick your specialist.
Yeah.
And then you go that way.
Yeah. If it's a general visit, then you have to go to a GP, a local GP.
Unless you see like I don't know what a specialist is for back, but that's okay.
Yeah, if it's like heart disease, or maybe, you know, if you had heart pain, chest pain, or if you have eye problems, ear problems, then makes more sense. Also, if you have an insurance, just go to the specialist.
Yeah. Okay.
And normally they don't ask you to wait too much. Maybe in few days you will have your appointment. But if you want to do something that is walk-in, then you go to the GP and they will see you in a few hours.
Okay. And the websites that I use to find different types of doctors is, what is it, Mio Dottore?
Mio Dottore.
There I found to be quite useful. I found a lot of people on there. Is there any other like website or app you would recommend for somebody to look for a doctor?
Mio Dottore is one of the most used, and then Doctolib also is one of the most common used. Yeah, I would say these two.
So, going into the hospital as a green code, we talked about this a little bit before. Is there any time, or is there any application that you know of that could tell you like the wait time, so you would know how long you have to wait before you go to the hospital?
Yeah, there's an app called SALUTILE that you can download from your phone, and you don't even need to register, and tells you different ERs and the estimated waiting time. So yeah, it's quite useful.
Yeah. Okay, so we can use that one. I'm going to put a link into all of the different apps that we've talked about through this conversation. We're going to go into now, what does the general outline or general life of a GP in Italy look like? And I guess the first question would be like, how many patients do you have?
As a GP, you normally have a cap of 1,500 patients, and this cap ensures you the possibility to have a proper relationship with almost all of your patients. Some of them you know them more, other you see them not often because they're healthy and they're fine. But in Italy we really care about the relationship between the doctor and the family, so that's why we like to call it. We don't really call it Medico di Base, Medico di GP, but we call it Medico di Famiglia because you really know the family.
Is there a difference between the età? So like there's, I know for the kids you have a pediatra fino a
14 years
14 years? Okay, so the pediatrician is until 14. And then in theory, the child, 14-year-old, would come into the Medico di Base that
exactly.
the
and
parents have.
You start your path with your GP, with the rest of the family, and then you can keep it if the relationship is good for both sides. Then you can keep the same GPs forever. That's the story. Normally, you see, I would say 20 people per day. Considering visits here or home visits for people that can't move, and then a consultation lasts 15 to 20 minutes, more or less.
And then, so your office has a secretary, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, and then does that secretary covers you and then all of the different doctors in this office, right?
Yeah, so we are a public service. You can contact the secretary, and then normally the secretary will get you the appointment, or we get you in touch with the doctor directly, and we share 2 secretaries for 5 GP as we are here in this studio.
And then it's, sorry, but this is one thing I was discussing with another person, is that the morning, how do you make the appointment? So like if you call the secretary is not there all day long, correct?
Our secretary is here from morning until 6 p.m.
Oh, wow. Okay, yeah, I've never seen that.
Yeah. It depends. Yeah.
It depends, yeah. Sometimes Medico di Base will have the time where you can call in the morning, I think, certain hours.
Because at the end, in Italy, as a GP, we are self-employed. So we can decide how to manage our job in order to make everything work. In our case, since we are in the middle of the city center, we are quite busy and lots of people, because if you consider 5 GPs, 1,500 patients per GP, so a lot of people
are calling.
Yeah, our secretary are always at the phone, so that's why we have longer hours in order to give a better service. But everyone can decide.
See, this is an interesting subject, which will bring me to my next question. Any advice you would give to somebody who's relocating to Bergamo? How could or would they pick their Medico di Base when they're at the ATS?
Many things. The best thing is just to ask advice to, like your friends, neighbors. Sometimes it's easier to find someone that you already know that is working in the way that it's fine for you, depending on your working schedule. The option could be when you go to ATS, at the end they know the age of the doctor. That means that maybe they can speak English or not, and they know the location of the studio, so they can help you somehow. But
I do have to say, they've been very helpful with the people that I've gone to the ATS with. It's been a lot of like, okay, where do you live? And let's find you the doctor that's closest to you, so that it's a bit easier to reach.
A problem, I would say it's quite common, is that maybe you find a GP you want, or the studio that you would like, that is close to you, more convenient, but then doctors are full because we already reached the cap.
Yeah.
So this could be, but you can go to your fascicolo sanitario and keep checking like every day to see if there's an available spot to find the doctor you would like, or something.
Yeah. Okay, and then what happens in the scenario that like you don't get along with your doctor? Like, let's say you're not on the same wavelength and it's not happening.
Yeah.
Is there any advice you could give?
Well, yeah, it can happen. It can happen.
I think that's the most important thing to notice here, is that it can happen.
Yeah.
Because sometimes when I was doing things, I was like, is it just me, or is this does everybody just get along and I'm not really getting on? But I think it's important to acknowledge that can be a scenario that can happen, just like it can happen anywhere in the world.
Yeah. And like with any kind of profession that is very important, in this case for your health, it's important to get along, I think, with your GP for the moment itself, for the future. It can happen. It can also happen in both sides, maybe you don't get along with your GP, or your GP doesn't get along with you, because the relationship is based on trust. So if this doesn't work, then you can go to ATS and just ask for another doctor, and they will give you another doctor. You don't have to explain any reason or anything.
Okay.
Then just change it. Yeah.
Okay. All right, good. Okay, so that is something important to note, is that it can happen, and there is a way to select other ones for that, and you just kind of keep going until you find where you feel comfortable.
Yeah.
Okay, now let's talk a little bit about insurance. What does this look like normally in Italy? So in the US, when I worked in a medical office, we had direct bill insurance. So like a patient would come in, if their insurance covered that visit, the office would directly bill the insurance company, or in some cases, the person pays out of pocket and then the insurance reimburses it. From my understanding in Italy, a lot of the scenarios are that you are going to be paying and then the insurance will cover it back.
Yeah.
Have you seen anything different like that?
Yeah, from my experience, I would say the majority of private patients I see are from medical service, that is a company, like an insurance company, and they pay the doctor directly. So the patients just come here. The patient come here, I visit them, and I just give them a paper with the visit, and that's it. So they don't have to do anything. And they are mainly tourists, I would say.
Okay.
And the other experience I have is with Ryanair, of course. And in that case, the patient has to pay the visit, and then I give them the bill, and then they ask for money back to their insurance.
So this is one of our next people that we're going to be talking with will be an insurance agent, because I want to cover this also in a lot of detail of what can you expect and what to also look out for when you're traveling or when you're making that move, because that's a very specific time when you don't really have all of your paperwork set up, but things can happen in the meantime. Is there any other last advice you would give, or I guess what would be your advice you would give somebody relocating to Bergamo for any type of medical needs? What would you give them as advice?
Yeah, I would say always consult a doctor before starting any kind of treatment or underestimate any kind of disease. Something we're proud of is that we have a good healthcare system, and we are fighting for that a lot. A good private public healthcare system. So you can, as you saw, you can consult many different specialists or GPs or go to the ER and use it wisely, but use it. Yeah, we are here for that.
Very good. All right, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it. If you have any other questions or comments, just subscribe down below, and maybe, who knows, we'll have another chat.
Yes.
And thank you very much for listening, and thank you very much for your time today.
Thanks to you.